Hi, um, my name is Rachel, and today I wanted to talk about something called OCD, which I'm sure a lot of people know about. Some people probably don't know about it, but it's basically uh, it's basically a mental health disorder, and I wanted to talk about it because not a lot of people talk about mental health, and I think it's something important that people should talk about more. I'm doing this off script. I didn't write anything beforehand, so I'm sorry if I mess up my words or I sound kind of weird throughout the video, but I just wanted to do a little ramble slash rant about it. And this is my thoughts about OCD. Um, so OCD stands for obsessive compulsive disorder. Um, and basically what it is there's a lot of time people will have a lot of times these obsessive thoughts, and then they have to do a compulsion to try to relieve or get rid of or try to I don't know what the word is, try to alleviate, I guess, these obsessive thoughts by doing compulsions. And it can look a lot like what the most famous thing that OCD is known for is hand washing. But that's not all that OCD is. It's not just hand washing. It's a lot more than that. Um, in the hand washing example, the obsessive thought could be something like my hands are dirty, and they keep thinking to themselves, my hands are dirty, my hands are dirty, my hands are dirty. I need to do something about that. So the compulsion is to wash the hands over and over again. But it's not just like they wash it once and that's it. They have to wash it until they feel like my hands are clean. And that can lead to them spending hours doing that over and over again, spending all day washing their hands until they get red marks and blisters on their hands. And it can be very hard for the person who has OCD. And this is why I don't like it when people say things like, I am so OCD, I am so OCD, because you can't be OCD. You can have OCD, it is a mental illness that you can have, but you can't be OCD. You can't be obsessive compulsive disorder. You have OCD. And it's not a cute little quirk that people think it is. It is actually a debilitating mental illness that people struggle with every day. So I would like people to think again when they say, I am so OCD, because it's not something funny and cute. It's something really hard that a lot of people have to struggle with. And it can be kind of offensive if you think about it. So yeah, I just don't like when people say, I am so OCD. It really hurts my feelings sometimes. And the reason I'm so attached to OCD is because I have it myself. I am diagnosed with OCD. So it really just boils my blood when people say things like that. OCD can come out in a variety of different ways. There is a lot of different subcategories of OCD, if that makes sense. You can have sexual thoughts OCD, which is basically when you have a lot of sexual obsessive thoughts. It can be very disturbing because you can have thoughts about your family, your friends. You can have thoughts about children sometimes, which I know is a very sensitive topic to some people. So that's a little warning that we might go into sensitive topics in this video. It can be really disturbing, the thoughts that you have. And it's really hard for the person who has OCD because they don't want to have these thoughts. They don't want to have these obsessive thoughts about their family or their friends or children. But they can't help it. It's part of the OCD. And they start to doubt themselves. And that's another part of OCD that's very important to think about. Is OCD is called the doubting disease. It makes you doubt yourself over and over again. It's kind of like I guess a good example would be like, the sky is blue, but what if something in your head kept poking you and saying, are you sure the sky isn't pink? Are you sure the sky isn't pink? I think we need to check to make sure the sky isn't pink, because I think that the sky is actually pink. Are you sure the sky isn't pink? Maybe we need to write a letter to a scientist and discover if the sky is really pink, because I think you're wrong that the sky is blue. I think it actually is pink. And that obsessive thought keeps going on in your head, and it makes you do something crazy, compulsions. Like, if I don't figure out if the sky is pink right now, maybe someone in my family is going to die. So I need to unlock the door over and over again until I feel completely satisfied that I know that the sky is not blue. That the sky is not pink and is actually blue. So it's something like, it's very confusing and hard to explain, but it's something like that, where it makes you doubt things and you keep having to do repetitive behaviors over and over again until you feel like you don't doubt yourself anymore. But the thing is, you're always going to doubt yourself because doubt is a part of life and you can't get rid of the doubt. That's why it's really hard when it's called this doubting disease, because you can't help but doubt yourself sometimes. It's also another form of OCD, besides going back to the different types of OCD, is besides the sexual OCD, there is harm OCD, where you're scared and you doubt, again, going back to the doubting, your doubt, I feel like I'm gonna hurt someone, and I feel like maybe I'll hurt someone close to me. How do I know I'm not gonna kill someone in my family? It's things like that, and you have to live with these thoughts every day, and it's very debilitating for people who have OCD. I personally don't have the harm OCD, but I've met people who have it, and it's very hard for them. They have to stay away from any type of sharp object because they're afraid that they might do something with that sharp object that they're going to regret. They might have to stay away from their family and friends because they're afraid they're going to do something to their family and friends that they're going to regret. It's just very difficult. There's also, which I struggle with specifically, the perfectionism OCD. Where you feel like you have to do things perfectly. But the problem with that is there is no such thing as perfect. So you're chasing after this idea of perfection, but there is no perfect, so you're chasing after nothing. And it kills you inside because you're like, I need to, you're chasing after this thing of like, I need to get this thing perfect. I need to get perfect grades. I need to be perfect at everything I do. I need to make sure this thing is lined up perfectly. I need to organize these things perfectly. I need to make sure that I take a shower perfectly. I need to make sure that I brush my teeth perfectly. I need to make sure that I do my hair perfectly. I need to make sure that I close this door perfectly. And it takes over your whole life. And you need to make sure that everything you do is perfect. But how can you make sure that everything you do is perfect when there is no perfect? So you keep trying to find this perfection, and there is no perfection. So what are you really after? You're after nothing. And it's very complex and it's really hard to explain. I don't know if I'm doing a good job at explaining any of this, but I just wanted to give my thoughts. There's also the specific OCD I struggle with is this need to know OCD, where you feel like you need to understand everything 100%. And if you don't understand it, you feel like I'm stupid and I need to understand this or else something bad is going to happen. I don't know what's going to happen, but something bad is going to happen. That's another part of OCD, is the feeling of dread. You feel like something bad is going to happen if I do not do these compulsions. Or sometimes in the case of pure OCD, where it's just obsessions, you just ruminate over and over again in your head. And you're trying to solve a thought, but you can't solve a thought. You just have these thoughts and you can't fix them. So I don't know if that makes sense either, but it's very nuanced and it's very complicated. Sorry, I've been talking a lot. A lot of times OCD can hurt other people because other people close in your life, like family and friends and significant others. There's a lot of things called relationship OCD, which I don't know that much about because I haven't had it, but I know that there's relationship OCD where you can get into problems with people you're in relationships with because of this OCD. A lot of times OCD can hurt, what I was trying to say is OCD can hurt other people. So when maybe for me, for example, when I feel like I need the need to know, I'm asking a person a question, but maybe I ask them so much that it really bothers them and it makes them feel like I'm intrusive and I'm intruding their space. And then they feel like, hey, stop it, but I feel like I need to know, so I don't stop it. And it's something like that which can just hurt relationships. there's there's other types of OCD that can also hurt relationships. You could, for example, be wanting to go on a date with someone, but you're so perfectionistic about how you clean your hands that you're running late, and you always run late with these dates because you're always washing your hands and you can never get out on time to go on these dates with your significant other. But I want people to understand that OCD isn't an excuse for your behavior, but it's an explanation for behavior. And maybe people who don't have OCD can try to understand a little bit more from the person's perspective that does have OCD. This is why they're doing these behaviors. It's not that they want to, it's that they feel that they have to. And it's very hard to break an OCD cycle. It's very hard to break free of the OCD thoughts in your head because it's very strong thoughts. It feels like you, even though it's not you. And how can you, this is what I've said a lot of times to people, is how do you not trust yourself? How do you not trust it when yourself is telling you, I need to do something? How do you ignore that part of you? But in OCD therapy, you learn to sit with those thoughts and kind of ignore those thoughts. Again, I'm not a therapist, so don't take my advice for verbatim, but it is important to go to, if you have OCD, I would suggest going to therapy or going to a psychiatrist, getting diagnosed to make sure that you have it, because don't just diagnose yourself based on this video, obviously. Again, I'm not a therapist. But get diagnosed by a professional and then try to seek therapy. There is something called exposure response prevention therapy, where they will expose you to your fears and expose you to your OCD thoughts and behaviors, and you have to work against these thoughts and behaviors, and you have to you have to be exposed to them and then not respond to these thoughts and feelings, and you have to live with it and sit with these anxiety, and you sit with the anxiety and you just don't respond to those thoughts. You sit with the thought and you acknowledge that it's there, and you think to yourself, you know what, maybe I am going to kill this person, but you don't react to it, and you just sit there and you say okay, and you live with it, because thoughts aren't reality. And that's what you have to deal with it. That's how you kind of get through OCD. Yeah, I'm trying to think if there's anything else I should say. Basically, just people who don't have OCD, try to look at it from the person who has OCD's perspective and try to be a little more understanding of them and where they're coming from, because it's as hard as it is for you to accept them and deal with all their craziness that they're throw upon you. It's hard for them to deal with the OCD that they have to go through every day. And please don't say that I am so OCD. Again, please, I reiterate that you are not so OCD. It's not a quirk. It's not a funny thing to make fun of. It's something that is serious illness that people deal with every day. I know for me that I've had, for my story a little bit, talking about myself, I've had OCD for a long time. I remember all the way back to second grade, I remember struggling in class because I would want to cut things perfectly, and I would have to go to the teacher to make sure I was doing good job cutting, because I was like, am I cutting this right? And I would start spiraling and thinking, if I don't cut this right, I'm going to do a bad job. I'm going to get a bad grade. And if I get a bad grade, I'm going to not be able to graduate. And if I don't graduate, I'm not going to go to high school. If I don't go to high school, I'm not going to go to college. And then I'm not going to get a good job. And that's how the OCD thoughts would kind of progress in my head. So that's a good example of OCD perfectionism. OCD can just make you feel like you're going crazy. And I want people to know that you're not alone. There are other people out there who struggle with OCD, and you're not crazy. It's just something that your brain tricks you into thinking that you just thoughts your brain tricks you into thinking. Yeah, so I know that I wouldn't be where I am today, and I wouldn't have been able to. Obviously, I'm not cured. I still have OCD. I still struggle with it every day, but I wouldn't be at the place I am today if I didn't have the support of my family and my friends and my therapist and the programs that I have been to. There are a lot of good mental health programs out there. There are a lot of good residential programs and IOPs and PHP programs, which are partial hospitalization programs, and inpatient programs, and what else programs? There's just a bunch of programs out there that people can go to for OCD specifically that can help. And if you don't want to do that, then find a therapist, please, because you can really fight against this. It's not impossible. And I think that's all I wanted to say. I just want to tell people a little bit more, teach them a little bit more about OCD, and let them know that there are resources out there. And tell a little bit about my story too, because I think it's important to know that there are others out there with the same mental illness as you. Yeah, so that's it. I hope you guys like this video. Again, this is my first kind of ramble mental health video I've ever done, so I'm sorry if it seems kind of incoherent or all over the place. But yeah, thank you for watching. Bye-bye.